You're tuning into the Wild, Weird, and Sometimes Normal podcast. If you have a story or a guest recommendation that you think others need to hear, email me at wildweirdandsometimesnormal@gmail.com. Let's get this started. Alex and Brett, kick it!
Wild. Wild. Weird. And sometimes wild. Weird. Wild. Weird. Wild. Weird. Wild. Weird. And sometimes normal.
On this episode, I'm a guest on Shawn Grimm's podcast, The Big Grimmbowski. Introduced by our mutual friend, Heidi Love, I jump on Shawn's pod for an awesome conversation. The full episode is on his feed, but here is about half the episode where we discuss Bigfoot, ghosts, and UFOs. Shawn hits the trifecta and has personal experience with all three, and I swap my stories with a UFO sighting as well as a haunting experience. Subscribe to Shawn's show, listen to our full episode on his feed, and let him know you heard him on Wild and Weird. Enjoy the show. Are you looking to buy a home in New Jersey, escape the city and move to the suburbs? Finally purchase a vacation home on the lake or down the shore? Maybe you're one of the lucky ones who are retiring and moving out of state. If so, let me help you. Keller Williams and the Real Estate Professional Group have what you need to make your goals come true. Reach out and have a conversation with someone who will put you first. Contact Brian McCoach at 856-321-1212 or email brianmccoach@kw.com. Are you looking for CBD for your pet? My friends at Pure Pet Wellness have what you need. They use the highest quality ingredients. While other companies may use synthetic oils in their CBD, Pure Pet Wellness uses organic ingredients, organically grown hemp, organic coconut oil, organic shea butter, organic beeswax, and that's just to name a few. A family-owned and operated company that also offers fast shipping. Go to purepetwellness.com for all your pet's CBD needs and use the discount code WILD and WEIRD at checkout. That's WILD, A-N-D, WEIRD. Treat your animal right. Go to purepetwellness.com.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Big Grimmbowski, and I am your host, Shawn. With me tonight, I have Brian McCoach. What's the podcast again? Wild, Weird, and Sometimes Normal? Am I right?
Wild, Weird, and Sometimes Normal. You got it, my man.
Hell yeah, dude. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on, man. This is great. I'm excited.
Definitely. We decided that we were just going to shoot the shit, kind of see whatever, came about, whatever happens.
See what third rails we can just hang on to and do our best to get canceled, man. That's what I'm here for.
Exactly. Oh, man.
So we got put together from a mutual friend, Heidi Love. The Mormon escapee.
Yep, she was on last night. The episode just, I think, hit Spotify just probably within like the last hour, honestly. It's a little after 8 my time here in Indiana. So I think that's on there. Actually, yeah, it is, because I checked. But I know she was
cool, man. I like her.
Yeah, she's been super busy all day long. She was recording a huge one, spent like 7 hours today. So shout out to you, Heidi.
Wow, good for her.
Right.
Such a fun story. I've never, fun that I guess in the world of cults, it could always be, worse. It wasn't like Heaven's Gate. She didn't have to drink Kool-Aid. But it's such an interesting story. And then she comes out of it like positively on the other side.
Right. And where are you at religiously, spiritually, all that jazz?
First, I meant what location? I was saying New Jersey. Then you really made a left turn on that one. I am in, I go back and forth, man. So there's definitely a higher power, I believe. Very open to spirituality, doing to others, a lot of golden rule stuff going on. A lot of hippie stuff that like I thumbed my nose at growing up. That like, you come around, it's kind of like, hey, the secret could be true. Like the universe does work for you, but at the same time,
right.
Like, just be nice to people and just see what happens. Like good things happen to good people.
Exactly. That's absolutely true. I'm all about the hippie loving everybody, jazz. And it's like, I look back at when I was like in my early 20s and stuff, and it's just like, I was so annoyed and just like pissed off with like everyone for literally no reason. And now I'm just like, what was the point in that? There was no point in me acting this way. Like, like everything is just, it's so much better when like you're happy, and like you can just, going out into nature more, and just like enjoying everything that's around you, and it's the fucking best.
I say all of this as I commute to work in the morning, and I go from being on the highway doing like 80 miles an hour and having to slam my brakes to 20, then back up to 40, and then like a screeching halt, and I'm just flipping everybody off all around me, and I'm like, I'm going to kill everybody here. But it's like, well, all right, deep breath, man. Like they're trying to get to work too. But I really think just don't hurt animals, don't hurt kids, don't hurt each other. But you also kind of have to go through that phase of being an asshole or not being your best, like growing up, and then realizing like that's not the way to live life. As long as like
Right.
you're not like a complete horrible person, but like,
Mhm.
definitely interactions I like to take back, or, why is that guy across the bar staring at me? Like, what's he doing? Like the dude's probably just like looking over your shoulder, or like whatever it is. And like, not everything's like, you don't have to be the center of the
Right.
story all the time, And now it's just like,
Right.
I could care less about any of that stuff. And hey, people are just trying to live their life, let them do it. Everyone's struggling just the same. And like, everyone hates their job. As long as the paycheck clears, it's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. What do you do for a living?
I do like budget and finance stuff. And then I do real estate on the side. So shout out to anybody in New Jersey who wants to buy a house. Yeah, I have that. I plug myself in my intro to the podcast. And then I do this. So I have many hats as well as being a father and a husband.
Right. Definitely, dude. That's so awesome. Like, you don't always get to like see like what everybody's day job is. Like, yeah, like, there's a huge podcasting following, and everybody listens, and this and that. But like when you start getting like a little bit more personal, and like you find out like more things like about them, like I feel like you can connect with those people a little bit better, because you're like, oh, okay, it's not just some voice or some face that I'm seeing like on the screen. Like, they're talking to me, but like now they're actually giving me a little bit of something about them. So, and they're like, oh, I can relate in these different ways and stuff like that. And just like seeing like how diverse like the background is, like Heidi's a freaking psych nurse, and here she is, doing podcasting and stuff like that as well. And then, you doing what you do. And then here I'm at a RV sales lot, and I'm, inspecting all of the RVs that are coming in, making sure all the stuff works, getting everything prepped and ready to go out onto the sales lot for people to, come and check out and stuff. And, we got people that literally drive in we had one guy that came all the way from upstate New York, drove a slingshot all the way. I don't know if you know what one of those are.
No, what is that?
Okay, so it's kind of like in the same like class range as like motorcycles and stuff like that. It's kind of like a smaller engine, but they're really, really fast. That they got two wheels on the front and just like one big one on the back. It's
Oh
a
yeah, I've seen
two-seater.
those. Yeah.
Usually they don't have like tops to them, but this one had like a full roll cage on it. So like if you flip the thing, like you would somewhat be good. But it looked really cool. It's like black and orange and everything. But the guy was like talking to me when I was in there, and he was like, oh yeah, I drove this thing from upstate New York, and it took me such and such hours. And he was trading it for a camper. And I mean, it was a decent size, camper. I can't remember what the footage was on it or anything, but I mean, it was a decent pull behind, and him and his family are gonna pull it back to New York. And I was just like, that's wild, like it's crazy how far people will come.
Yeah, to drive that for that long, I've never been in one that could be the most comfortable thing in the whole world. Also seems like you have to pay it like really a lot of attention as you're driving those things. And as you start going, cross country, maybe you kind of do that whole space out. You're like, well, shit, I went 40 miles already. That seems like something that's half an adventure on its own, just driving that thing for that long. Like the internet is amazing. Like you can get sucked down these like rabbit holes or get, doom scrolling on Twitter or whatever. But if you're somewhat creative, if you can make videos, like this whole podcast thing, like, I don't know, I had the laptop, like everything else was like $200, like less than that.
Right.
You can run this whole thing that you have, and am I going to be Joe Rogan tomorrow, making $200 million? I hope so, but probably not. But in a year, 2 years, 5 years, am I in a spot where maybe I don't have to do my full-time job? Maybe
Right.
this takes me on vacations, like a super amazing vacation every year. I'm like, oh, that was next year, whatever the amount of money is that's coming in that you're not expecting. And you're saying for the kids to find something you like this is what I like. But like, they didn't have this like growing. I mean, I guess I could have YouTube came out at some point, I don't know, like 04 or something.
Right.
Man, how to do that shit. Like, I don't think it was as easy to upload like as it is now. Like, this is a joke now. You come on here, you shoot the shit with some people, you make some good episodes. I have some crazy guests come on. Like, we were talking about Bigfoot the other day. I'm at the foot of the Pine Barrens. This guy, he actually lives in my neighborhood. He goes down to the Pine Barrens and goes hunting for Bigfoot. I'm gonna try to go out with him one time. But go find. He's seen him. He has seen Bigfoot in the Pine Barrens. Like, he has stories of seeing him. I'm gonna go out there and go do it. But
have you had him on before?
I just had him on. Yeah, he was my last episode that just came on.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to check that out.
A blurry picture of him in New York. He was driving. This is like 10 minutes from me. His store that he has is 3 minutes from me. The Pine Barrens where he was at is 10 minutes from me. He was driving home, and one ran in front of his car. And then over the next 3 months, he knew 2 other people that saw the same Bigfoot run out around the same. Well, I don't know if it was the same one, but they saw a Bigfoot run out around the same time at around the same spot. He has been in the woods and has found footprints, like in the lakes. He leaves apples out for them, and I guess they take them. He puts them like high up enough they can go do it.
Oh,
he was out one day on Thanksgiving, and one roared in his ear that it shook his eardrum. Like, that's how he was like, I go out, like, I know all the animals and all this stuff. So crazy. But like, that was awesome to talk to him. Like, I like cryptids. I like weird stuff. And, to sit here and talk to people who, either have seen UFOs or wrote books on them or ghost books or saw ghosts, or I talk to people who are in bands, or, I get to shoot the shit with people like you. Like, this is also fucking cool. But I'm also a moron when it comes to this, because I didn't grow up with all this stuff. So all these kids, like, if you don't make $1 million off the internet, like, you're only failing yourself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, literally, what it's going to come down to is it's going to come down to knowing the algorithms and knowing how to make it to where your stuff is coming up immediately in the searches. So for example, one of the things that I do after, posting an episode is making sure that I go to the tag section and I start putting in hashtags and making sure that I have all the right hashtags that I want, so that I know for a specific topic that if anyone for whatever reason gets onto Spotify or wherever you're listening to it, and you type in for example the Mormon Church, so like I would have the Mormon Church, LDS Church, all the different little talking points that we had brushed on that could bring you to that episode. And it's like, yeah, just knowing those things, and then also knowing which ones get bigger audiences. And there's a few in particular that I've had some people tell me, they're like, hey, if you get the chance to do these specific episodes, do them, because they get really big numbers. They're really big talking points, and like and that's like UFOs and stuff with aliens. If you come out with an episode that has something to do with UFOs, UAPs, and stuff like that, you will get really high amount of numbers, because that's the thing. Like, you just type that in, UFO, UAP, and all of a sudden, boom, every episode that you've done where you've had that in there and you put that in as a hashtag, all that's getting popped up now. So now all these people are like, oh, okay, now I can start listening to these things. And so, like, I've had all these different podcasters kind of give me like different, pointers on different things, and I've absolutely loved it. But back to the Bigfoot. I saw Bigfoot once.
Did you?
When I was 16.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so I've told this on here before to several different guests and stuff. But I was 16. me and several friends, we were going out to a place where I currently live is only within five minutes from me. Like I can get over to this exact location within 5 minutes. Honestly, probably less than that if there's not any traffic, because it's a very, very close. So I live in a little town called La Fountain, and for the most part, this is a absolutely nothing town. There's not really anything here. Like you drive through it in a blink kind of thing. But the outside area is where the Battle of 1812 took place. So all that's out through there. And us locals call that area Hobbitland. So as teenagers, we would go out to Hobbitland and we would just try to get spooked because like it was always, haunted. There was reports, back in like the 60s where like a couple kids got murdered and like decapitated and like their bodies were never found, but like their heads were, and like it was something to do like satanic ritual stuff. Like there's all these different crazy things. And then of course the hobbits. So there's a bridge that you can go to, park your car, turn it off, honk your horn 3 times, and then when you turn your lights on, the hobbits will come over the side of the bridge. And it's funny because actually on episode 19 that I did day after Halloween, I was talking, this is the same location that I had this story where I had these people in like clown masks and like overalls and flannels jump out into the road and chase me and some friends when I was like 19 out in that same place. So
that's messed up.
Right. Yeah. That whole entire story is wild anyways. So like I said, so it's me and my now girlfriend's brother, and he's sitting in the cab with me. And then we got several people in the back of my S10. So like we came in through like the back way of this, and it's a single road, like single lane gravel road. And there's trees on both sides of it. So it's like, it's one of those things like when you're traveling down it, the trees kind of start like getting closer and kind of closer and kind of closer. And it's like, it's really creepy in general out there. And there's also like an old schoolhouse from that time period too. And there's a whole graveyard behind it that's had crazy paranormal things happen over there as well. So we're coming in and like, think like, it's in the fall time, like the trees don't really have leaves on them or anything like that. So it's like you can see through the trees pretty good. We had like a bunch of big mag flashlights and stuff. So like we're kind of like looking around and everything. And I don't even think I was driving 5 miles an hour. I'm pretty sure like I was just on engine coasting at this point and just kind of like looking around and everything. And then I look forward again and I see this figure. I mean, it was close enough that my headlights were hitting it, but I could see whatever this was a solid color of brown, and it was extremely tall, like 7-8 feet in height easily, if not more than that. And it only took one step to get to the center of the road. Took one step out from the side, stepped into the road, turns, looks down at me, and then turns back, steps back into the woods and proceeds to walk in there. And at this point, I'm freaking out, and I'm just like, what was that? What was that? My buddy's like freaking out, and I was, I couldn't like tell. I'm like, dude, I don't know what this is. Like, I'm rolling my windows up, I'm locking the door, I'm doing all the things, and he's like, do we tell everybody in the back? And I was like, no, we're not saying a single thing. We are not getting out of the cab of this vehicle until we have reached civilization. Like, like they can be sacrificial lambs at this point. I don't care, So we get closer and everything, and like there was nothing. And like the more I sit there and think about it, the more I think about it, and I was just like, I was so confused then. And it really wasn't until like I was 25 when I was in a paranormal investigation group here in my hometown. And we had once a year this thing that we would call Dining with Ghosts. So we would set up as an event, you would buy tickets for it, there was catered food, and then you would get to go on a investigation with us and see what it's like to do a paranormal investigation somewhere. And we would usually do that at a large location that has, activity and stuff. So like it would make it easy for, multiple groups of people to go around and do all the different things. We had this guy come in, and he was a local historian. His name's Ron Woodward. And he knows all this awesome folklore about the area and all these different stories. And like he does this spiel. And like I'd actually seen him when I was in 8th grade on the very last day of 8th grade. It was the last day of school. We were doing like all these events and different things because the last day of school. And one of the things was you could go and listen to this seminar about, ghosts and things. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds freaking awesome. Like I signed up and I go sit in the auditorium and here's Ron and he's, talking about all these things. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this, this sparked it for me. Like, I was already kind of like, into like the scary, spooky, like movies and different things and stuff like that. But it's like, at that point, I'm just like, oh man, I need to go to these places. I need to see these things. I need to have these interactions. Like I need this. Like I want it to happen. Like this is just insane. So like, he had all these stories and stuff, but it wasn't until the second time where he started talking about how there has been people around this area who have had Bigfoot sightings and various places, because in between here is 2 reservoirs, the Salamone Reservoir and the Mississinawa Reservoir, and both locations are where people have had Bigfoot encounters, either somewhere along there or along the Wabash River. So it wasn't until he started saying that all of a sudden I was just like, what I saw was Bigfoot. There is no doubt in my mind that what I had been seeing was Bigfoot, because it was tall, it was solid color of brown. There was nothing on it that was clothing. There was nothing on it that made me think that this was a human. Like it wasn't fathomable. It wasn't possible. There was like no way. There's no way. Like that would be a freakishly tall person to be as tall as this thing was. But like the other things like made me not think that that's what I was seeing was the fact that a lot of people's reports is like these Bigfoot that they're seeing are kind of like very muscular. They're really thick, and this one wasn't. Like it was very lanky, had very very skinny arms and legs and torso, but I mean legitimately reminded me of like an NBA basketball player, just like that kind of physique, like not like big huge muscly guys, just tall lanky dudes.
No chance it was just Rick Smits just wandering around the woods?
I don't think so.
No, okay. Just checking for you. I mean, the guy's been out of a job for a while, not making the money like it was back then. Dude, that's awesome. That is such a cool story. I have not seen Bigfoot. I've had a little bit of a ghost experience, but nothing crazy. And then saw a UFO, but like truly in like the weakest of terms that like I guess like a UAP could be. It was just this light in the sky. It was a summer evening. I guess probably August or September. So New Jersey, probably just like Indiana, it doesn't get dark until, maybe like 8 o'clock or something around that time. So this was 6 p.m. So 6 p.m. is still, bright. This is not, you're still in the, summer brightness.
Yep.
And we were coming back from a barbecue or something. And my son was probably like 4, so maybe it's like 6 years ago. Maybe he was 5, I don't know. And I'm walking in and I look up and you can just see this light. Like it was as bright as like the brightest star at night.
Okay.
But it was daylight. So like you don't see stars. Like, there was not, it's a blue sky. And It wasn't a plane, and it was lower. It was like, probably like mid-size for a plane. So like I couldn't see like what it was, but it just stayed there. I looked up at it for 45 minutes, and in 45 minutes, it barely moved. Like it just stayed there.
Huh.
I didn't get this like amazing download or anything like that. My brother at the time was living like 11 miles away from me, and my other siblings and parents were at his house. I maybe left his house for the barbecue to come home, and they were still there. So I called him, and like I'm trying to give him directions in the sky. I'm like, hey, step out in your backyard, look this way, and like he can see it from his house too. And they're like, dude, we see this. Actually, we think we see this other one. So I forget the reporting site. New Jersey has like this UFO reporting thing, but then they reported and came out with it that like it was a sighting. They're like, oh, at this time we saw this, and over the course of an hour and a half, it drifted over New Jersey. Now, what was it? I don't know. I don't think Starlink was out at that time. It was going too slow to be a Chinese spy balloon.
But still, Starlink in the daytime. I don't think I've never heard of anyone seeing Starlink in the daytime.
Yeah. So I don't know what it was. It just sat up there and it was pretty cool. I really want to see like a true UFO, like, like the black triangle or like the saucer shaped one. Like I'm in for that, but like I'll take the light for now, but we'll start with that.
Now, I had an experience when I was like 5 where I saw a saucer-like thing up in the sky driving through town. And I pointed it out to my mom and I tried to like tell her, I was like, hey, like I think I see a UFO. And she just kind of laughed it off and was like, no, you don't. I was like, but I still can like, see it in my mind as clear as I did that day. And it was, chrome, silver looking. And I could see that it was not like moving and it was stationary, but it was rotating. I could see that it was rotating. And I remember watching it up until the point where like it finally was out of my view because, I was only like 5 or 6 at the time. But it totally happened. I was just like, what is this? And that's the only thing I've ever seen. And then I have, I know several people who've gone out and like they've had like their own different things. And one of my guests that I've had on here, Shelby Lopez, she sees things in the sky at night quite often. And I'm also kind of coming into realizing that a lot of people who have like a lot of these different experiences, if they've had one, they end up having another one, and like they somehow, I don't know how like they connect, but like I've had a full
So
body.
you've seen UFO, you've seen Bigfoot, and then you were a ghost investigator. But
yeah,
then
and I
like,
had a full body
people...
apparition in my room when I was 17 as well.
Wow.
And actually, no, I was 16, and that was really, really weird. And like my mom thought somebody had broke into our house, this and that. Long story short, the next morning when I'm like telling them about what was going on, what I saw and everything, my dad was like, asking me if I'd ever seen pictures of an old roommate of his. I was like, no, I hadn't. I don't know what he looks like. And he's like, okay, well, you just described him to a T. And he had died in a motorcycle wreck before I was born. So like I never met them. I never seen him at all. But like, he told my dad 2 things, one, that if he didn't want this stereo anymore, that he would take it and he would take care of it because he absolutely loved it. Okay. So that stereo is sitting at the foot of my bed. This apparition is standing there looking down at the stereo. And I thought it was my dad at first because of the similarities that they had, but like this man was much taller than he was and had a longer beard, and my dad had like really short facial hair. Like he didn't let his beard grow at all. Like I would never see him with a beard like as long as mine is. Like he keeps it really, really short. So that was another thing. But 3:30 in the morning, you're not really kind of thinking of these details and everything. So, but it was his buddy. And like the other thing he told him was, if you ever have a son, I'll always be there for him. And so like, that was just like the other thing. And like, he tried to reach down at me while I was in my bed. Again, I thought it was my dad. So I swung my arm at him, expecting to hit his hand or forearm. I hit nothing. I should have hit something. I hit nothing. And then that's when I popped. That's when I sat up really quick. And then when I turned my head back, like I was alone. There was nobody else in the room. And I was up in the attic at this point in time. My bedroom was up in the attic. There was no way for you to run across the room to the other side to the stairwell and then all the way down the stairs, open the door, and then go through the living room and the kitchen in order to get out of the house with nobody being woken up, nor the dog being woken up.
That is crazy, man.
Yeah.
So did you guys move the next day? Like next day for sale sign was up and it was
Nope.
over?
Nope.
Yeah.
We ended up moving like a year later, but
Yeah.
it wasn't because of that. It was just more because my parents had ended up getting a job at local facility that had to do with troubled youth.
Okay.
So like kids that were having to be put somewhere because of like the courts, either they were doing gang activities or, just constantly fighting, getting caught smoking cigarettes, all different things. If a judge said like you need to go here until you're 18, then they would be there until they were 18. So like some of the staff get to like live there, for free on campus. So like for the rest of the time, that's where we ended up living. We ended up getting housing out there for free, which was pretty cool for us. So like we didn't have to really worry about paying anything other than we paid for DirecTV. I don't think we paid for anything else besides our food at that point in time. Like
Yeah.
internet was included, the electricity was included. Like we didn't have to pay the rent. We had like man, how many bedroom house was it? One, two, three, four bedroom house. I had two rooms. One of them I used for like my TV and my video games, and like it was just like a little like chill spot. I had like a beanbag chair in there and everything. So it was like it was pretty cool. And like the other room is just like where like all my clothes are, my bed, and dresser, and my other TV. So and they were there for some time until they decided to move to where they are now. They've been there for a while.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. The full body apparition. So
Yeah.
we used to go to my aunt's house a lot, maybe like seventh and eighth grade type of deal. She lived in Bensalem, which is like an hour from here. And she had like maybe like a big mansion type of thing, maybe a little smaller than that, but she had that and a nice pool. So we'd go up there and hang out, and she had, extra bedrooms. My parents would go, and we would either, sleep on the floor, like around the bed, or go down in the basement. And the one time I'm sleeping on the floor, like the base of the bed, and it's like 6 a.m. and I hear a vacuum going on, like vacuuming. So we come down for breakfast, and she's down there, and I'm like, why are you vacuuming at 6 a.m? And she's like, oh, you heard that? I was like, yeah, like, what are you doing? She's like, oh,
Right.
that's the
Who
ghost
wouldn't?
that we have. Yeah, she's like, oh, that's the ghost that we have. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, like you'll hear the vacuum sounds. Like we're up, like when no one's here, just her and her husband at the time who were there. And she's like, we're both upstairs. Like we hear the vacuum downstairs. We come downstairs. There's no vacuum going on. Go back upstairs. It might turn back on. It might not. So like, that was weird. But also like, maybe I was sleeping. Maybe I kind of dreamed that. I don't know. But she heard that too. So then the other
Right.
thing is, we would sit at the dining room table and have breakfast or lunch, whatever it is. And like everybody in the house is at this table and we're hanging out. And you could hear somebody walking down the stairs. The sound of footsteps on stairs coming down. The stairs are squeaking, like, as they should as someone's walking down rhythmically. And when you get to the bottom of the stairs, you would turn and you would walk into the dining room. And you'd start hearing, everybody would like kind of look at each other like, who's on the stairs? And then we get to the bottom and stop, and nobody was there. That happened, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times, like to be like, oh, there's the ghost again. Oh, there's the ghost again. So really, that's just weird. But like a full body apparition, that's crazy.
Dude, and it doesn't stop there. So like I've lived in several places that have had activity. Also, like when I was 25, I lived in a upstairs apartment that somebody had hung themselves in a year or two like before then. And I remember being in one of the downstairs apartments of that place before I moved there. And you could hear one night, we were all sitting in this living room, and you could hear the sound of somebody, what sounded like dragging furniture across the floor. And I was like, what the heck? I thought nobody lived upstairs. And they're like, well, that's the ghost. And I was like, shut up. No. And they're like, no, for real. Like we hear this stuff all the time. Like we just hear like footsteps and like things being dragged and this and that, at random hours. And yeah, and like I was like, this is so weird. And like, okay, we're definitely not going to go up there tonight. Nobody had the balls to go up there in the dark because like the power wasn't on in that apartment. So it's like you couldn't just go in there and like turn the lights on or anything. So like, but it was unlocked. And I was like, well, I mean, we got to go up there because apparently they have had like homeless people like sneak into like various parts of this place and like try to like live, because this used to be like a gigantic house, like a single family house at one point in time that probably would have been like, I don't know, 8-bedroom house, huge house that got sectioned into multiple apartments. And that there's just one apartment on the top, and then I think there was like two or three downstairs. And then there was also a gigantic attic. So like the shared space that you would have with the other tenants would be when you walk in through the front door, like you immediately come into like this big open kind of like room area with a gigantic staircase right in front of you, and then the doors that go down to the other rooms is also on the hallway on that lower level as well. So once you go all the way up to the top there, the landing, it goes all the way around, and then it circles back around to another staircase that then goes up to a full attic area. And so that next day, like we went up there and we walked around. There is nothing. There's not a single bit of furniture. The apartment was completely empty of everything. There was not a person in there, nothing. And we even went up into the attic and checked the attic area, which again, there was nothing up in there. It was very strange looking though. It was like you went up into the attic and then there was like a small, like a bigger, it was like a gigantic platform that sat in the middle of the attic. Just like a platform that probably sat at least 2 feet higher than the ground level. So it's not like it was just like a little step up. Like it was like a pretty decent sized step up. And then it was just like just like a giant square in the middle of this attic. But like the ceilings were probably like, oh, I don't know, like 12 feet tall.
Wow.
So like there was still a whole lot of room. I was like, man, this would be so sick to just like turn this room into like, just like a hangout spot and this and that. But like all like the walls and everything were like black. So I don't know if it was just like dirt or what it was, but I didn't want to stay in there. So like later end up moving in there and everything. So I'm there by myself. There's no one else there. I'm playing Call of Duty. I'm playing Modern Warfare 2 on Xbox 360 at the time. And I start hearing footsteps coming down one of the hallways. And I stopped and just kind of sat there expecting to see somebody come walking through the hallway. And then I didn't. So I was like, okay. So I immediately grabbed my gun because it was sitting next to me already. So I'm going through the house and I'm just like going around corners and everything. Just like I'm looking, I'm like, who's in my house? Like, and there's nobody there. Nobody there. And then this apartment that I live in right now, at one point in time, people died in a fire here. So most nights that I'm going to record, weird things are happening on the other side of this door. And then I end up finding out about it after I get done. And my girlfriend ends up telling me about all the weird things. But like we had like a closet door that opened wide one night when I was in here. She thought like I had came out early, and I hadn't. I was still in here. I was still recording. I never heard the door open. I mean, it's just like feet from me, but it was open. She almost walked into it because the hallway light was off. Like like the weird things, and like there's always random like sounds, and sometimes like so like I have a 1-year-old son right now, and so like when he's whining and stuff like that, it's a pretty distinct sound. So like when he goes back home to his mom's, he's not here. We'll still hear what sounds like him making some sort of noise coming from this very room, because this room doubles his bedroom and the studio when he's not here. So that's how I'm able to do things during the week and stuff. So yeah, there's just like we hear strange sounds. We think it's him, but it's like, okay, can't be because he's not here. I think yesterday, yeah, I think a door shut on its own as well. And I was like, wait a second, I didn't shut that door. Like I went into the bathroom. I think I had been brushing my hair because I got really long hair up top. And when I came out, I didn't shut the door because the cat goes in there and that's where his food and water is. So I wouldn't shut the door because again, my son's not here. He's not going to be going into the bathroom. I don't have to worry about keeping the door shut. But it shut on its own, and that's never happened before. We had fans going all the time, the AC running. That never affects it. That's never once been like, even having like the windows open or the door open. Like there's never been airflow that comes through here. And I have lots of weird things that happen here quite often.
What do you think? I mean, so there was a fire there and people passed away. But what do you think overall like this is? Like what do you think is causing the phenomenon?
So from people that I've talked to, because I'm really into the metaphysical and different stuff like that, and I've talked to them. I was like, hey, can you sense anything, anything like coming for you? And the general consistency has been like there's possibly a child, that's still here. Not that they were somebody that passed away here, but they're still here anyways, and they like the environment, whether it be the crazy mushroom picture here in the background.
Awesome
Uh,
picture.
yeah, well,
Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
big old tapestry,
Yeah.
so it's like, is it because of things like that? Is it because I have kids of my own, and all their toys and stuff are here, and just like, they must like the vibe and this and that. But like, I tell you what, my cat sees something, he plays whatever with whatever this is majority of the nights. Like the second that we turn the lights off and we go lay down, he's running, he's back and forth, he's acting like he's chasing stuff. And like you'll sit, like look at him and he'll be looking up at like something like, all bug-eyed and everything, and you're just kind of like, okay, what's he looking at? But I'm also somebody that I believe that cats are able to see into the astral and can, they can kind of travel through there at, any time. And I kind of feel like, a lot of old, ancient, cultures and stuff kind of believe that too, especially like the Egyptians. They believed that the cats were half in, half out all the time. And, I don't think that they were probably wrong.
Yeah, I have a cat. She's wild. She definitely sees stuff. She's also 16, so it could be dementia or something. I don't know. Like this fine line that she walks, but the cats are definitely the most unique or open. Like she'll just stare off at stuff, or like she's tracking something on the wall, and so there's nothing there. So this child that's in your apartment now, the footsteps, the furniture in the other place when there was no furniture. What's causing that, and why? So what's your spirituality at? I mean, what do you think the afterlife is?
So I think that there is a source creator, whether that be God or whatever. I mean, we won't know what he refers to himself or herself or whatever itself, and until we get there. But I think that as soon as we're done with the meat suit, we're going back to source energy, and we're figuring out, we're coming back. And now, since that we're back and we've had all these other, because I think past lives and stuff happen as well. I mean, you can even look at a scientist, scientific standpoint of energy can't be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred between one thing and another. So if we are made of energy, our energy has to go somewhere. Just like anything that is alive that has energy, that's going to have to go somewhere. And it's not just going to, I don't think that it's, we just phase out into black and that's the end of the story. That's kind of weird. No, I think that once we go back to source, we can then, regain all that knowledge that, we can't remember now because we are here, but then all of a sudden it comes back. Okay, now our energy, our soul, whatever you want to call it, now has that even more life experience and stuff than it had before. So it's just like, okay, you can either continue just kind of doing that, or you can, reincarnate, come back as something else, or maybe you just decide, okay, well, I don't want to for a while. Like, I'm just going to sit out here. I'm just going to watch the universe. I'm going to, watch this planet. I'm going to, something like that. I think like the possibilities of what it could be are, truly endless.
Do you think this boy that messes around with your cat and makes child crying sounds, do you think he's just observing the universe and likes to interact with it a little bit, or like what's causing him to still be around?
And that's the thing. And I feel like a lot of like the paranormal society kind of, they differ on those things, because it's like, okay, if we go back to that, then why does this doesn't make sense then? So like, why would these spirits, why would these entities, whatever, why would they still be here? Why would they have not gone back? And some people say, okay, well, something traumatic happened and they don't know how to move on, or maybe it's not something traumatic, but they still don't know how to move on. Like they started to go through the tunnel, but then maybe kind of decided, okay, well, I'm not going to go all the way to the light just yet, but I'm going to hang around right here. And then maybe we'll kind of walk that way. And who knows, maybe it's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, if you don't go immediately to that, then maybe you just kind of like get stuck for a little bit until you're able to find that, or, or who knows, but there's something to it. There's no reason why I, as an investigator, would be able to go to locations, be able to get EVPs. There's no reason why I would be able to go to locations and have physical objects move shut. I was at a house that had a door that slammed shut. I mean, slammed shut with some serious force. Like, I thought that the door probably had been broken off the hinges. It slammed so hard. And I was it was at the top of a staircase, and I was sitting at the bottom of the staircase. I'm not more than 10 feet away from this door when this thing slammed. So like, it was loud. But these things are happening. So I don't know. And then you have like the other people think, okay, well, these things aren't actually people. These are demonic entities that are here to try to confuse us and make us think that, oh, hey, we're, there's these lost souls, that need help and this and that. But in actuality, they're trying to attach to us. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can really look at it. And it's hard to really pinpoint where that is. And again, obviously, we probably won't ever know that answer until, for whom the bell tolls, our time is fucking up.
And then it's going to happen, and you're like, that was the dumbest thing ever. Like, that's what it was? Like, oh, man.
Right. I knew I should have played the lottery more.
That's it. That's funny. Dude, so you've had a lot of experiences. That's pretty cool that you have all that, and it hasn't, I don't know, living in that many haunted places, I might really start to rethink where I'm moving into, but it seems like you embrace that.
Right. I mean, I'm also I'm not one of those people that really gets like scared and spooked easily. Like, no joke, I could go into a haunted location and be completely fine, but like today I'm working on a motorhome and there was 2 cockroaches the size of my freaking thumb, and I was like, no, if one of these things is alive and it's moving, I'm not going back in here. I will not do this. Like, like when it comes like insects, I'm just like, nope, done. Completely done. Spiders, get away from me. Anything that's got long legs or bites or flies, stay away from me. I don't want you. Like, no.
So ghosts are fine, keep the bugs away.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
And that's one of the hard things about trying to investigate anywhere that's outside in a warm climate. You can't do it because you can't have a flashlight on without having every single bug fly into it and your face.
Right. And then, figure some of these like old abandoned places, they're probably overrun with like vermin and, cockroaches and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, especially if you're in the South.
Oh, yeah. I need to get on an investigation. I interviewed a guy who does them. He did one 2 weeks ago, but I was tied up. I couldn't go. But that's something I want to try to get out and go see and see what's happening.
You totally should. Are you able to record podcasts like through your phone?
I don't see why not. I mean, I have an iPhone. I'm
Because
sure I could.
you should totally try to do an episode where you are recording during the investigation, because a lot of times like that stuff is a little bit different, than like what the shows like, Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventurers and stuff like that, portray. Like a lot of that stuff is pretty dramatized, obviously, for entertainment purposes. But like, no, like it's definitely something that you should experience. It's super fun. And yeah, there's weird things that can happen. And like, there's all these people out there like that don't like believe things and stuff, and then when they actually get to experience it for themselves like firsthand, and they're just like, I can't explain that. I don't know what that is. I have a YouTube dude that I've followed for years. I've been watching all this stuff. It's called Exploring with Josh, and he explores all these different abandoned places and this and that. But like he said for a really long time, like, I'm not going to do ghost videos. I'm not. I'm not that person. I don't believe in it. And like I haven't like watched any of this stuff in a while. I flipped on the other day to see, and like that's his big thing now, is ghost videos and stuff. And like he straight up said in one of them, he's like, I know I said I wasn't gonna, I wasn't about this stuff, and like I really didn't believe in it, but then he ended up having an encounter somewhere and it completely changed his mind.
Wow. Yeah. So I definitely want to go out and check that out. I think my next adventure I want to go do, anything like the mud flood in Tartaria. You ever hear any of this stuff?
A
Like the old
little
world
bit.
type of stuff. So there's buildings like apparently in all these cities. San Francisco, there's pictures of them, 10, 12-story buildings.
Uh-huh.
And they go and they're going to put a gas line in, or there's a sinkhole. And there's subfloors that aren't accessible inside the building that have windows and have all this stuff, that like, so why would you have built this building with windows underground? So like really weird stuff.
Right. And I feel like I've seen a couple of those, and the explanation was, well, over time, they decided to raise the ground level up. And instead of, just like tearing the buildings down, okay, we'll just layer more dirt and stuff down, raise the land up to where now the street level is up higher than what it used to be 50 to 100 years prior.
Yeah, I find that explanation hard to believe. So in
Right.
Philadelphia, I'm talking to this guy. We're talking about something completely different. He's in this paranormal blues rock band, and he like writes songs like Bigfoot and Dogman and vampires.
Oh, that's
and shit.
cool.
It's real cool. And he loves UFOs. We start talking about that and other cryptids. And I bring up the mud flood a little bit. And I'm in the middle of editing it now. It's coming out on Friday. And I don't remember if he told me at the end of the podcast or it was after we were done recording. I feel like it was after we were done recording. But he never heard of the mud flood. So I'm explaining to him, it's very poor explanation. And he's like, my friend had a marketing firm in Philadelphia and they were moving buildings. He's like, so I went there to help them move out. And it's in Old City, Philadelphia. And so this is all, they have Betsy Ross House. They have where Ben Franklin lived. They have, George Washington when he lived in here. They have all these houses. Right? So this is all Revolutionary War times. You can go down there and walk around. There's graveyards for Revolutionary War, all this stuff. So he goes down there and he's helping his guys move some boxes. And his one buddy's like, oh, do you want to go show him the basement? And he's like, what's in the basement? Like, oh, here, come check this out. And they go down in the basement and there's a storefront down there with a street like paved, like this cobblestone street there as well. And he said there was a bunch of old shoes. And like he was just looking at it more of like, what is happening? Like, how's there a storefront like in here? But it was like it's probably, like 15 feet below. And so his buddy was like, oh, well, they brought all this dirt in and raised everything up. I was like, oh, well, when did they do that? Because we have Betsy Ross's house right here. And so this is all 1750 time period as like the Revolutionary War. Like all this stuff is supposed to be settled. Like and where did you get a backhoe from to get, like, where'd all this dirt come from? Like you came over to New Jersey and crossed it over the bridge. Like you raised the whole city up 15, like none of that makes any sense. So I need to try to find out if I can get the address of the place, if he remembers the address where his buddy was, and either beg the people to see the basement or I don't know what to do, but I want to check this out.
That honestly, it sounds very, very familiar. I feel like I've seen something on this before. But
there's a ton of buildings where all these basements have like full windows, and it's like not just like the little that they have now, like the little small, it's not the triangle, whatever shape it is, the half circle.
Yeah.
to that light in like people have now. Like these are like full blown windows, and like you could see door frames that are filled in now. Like, why was there a door frame underneath here? Yeah, it's almost like I get if you built more stairs. Like if there was a sinkhole, then you're like, oh shit, like how do we get back up to this building? But, like not to have you didn't raise stuff. I don't know. I'm trying to square it. I can't figure that out. But it's weird.
Right. I love like all like the different like abandoned things, and then like there all these different bits of like history and stuff that ties into them, and things like that. It's like there's so much stuff that's just like it's forgotten. It's not there anymore. And like I love seeing like these different videos where somebody's like, oh man, I found this abandoned mansion in the middle of the woods, just like miles away from anybody else. Man, who is it in particular? I want to say it's Nelly, the rapper Nelly. I can't remember where exactly, but he had bought a mansion, and it's literally like in a forest, and there's nothing else around. It's this multi-million-dollar thing, and like you can't like just like drive up into it because it's like it's blocked off, and but you can still get in if you park your car, but you have to do like a several mile walk to get to it. But like he had like bought it and then never did anything with it, but like never sold it, just basically forgot that it was even there. And it's just abandoned. No one's been there in years, and like the people who have gone there and have seen it, it's insane. It's so huge. Everything's like white. There's all sorts of like lion statues and things like that around the property. But like you go inside and like you can tell no one's been in there. And how long and how long before it gets to the point where it's completely covered in ivy and completely overgrown to the point where you don't even know it's there anymore.
Yeah, like why was that built in the first place there? Like I get you want to be alone, but you also have to kind of be near a road or the town or wherever you're going to go. And if this is 1800s stuff and pre-Civil War, you still have to be able to get places. So like,
right.
Like that's crazy.
Right. Definitely. Well, hey man, we've been doing this for quite a while now. It's 10 o'clock my time, so figure we start closing her out for the night.
I love it, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and tell everybody again, like where can they find you? Where are you at? All the different things.
I am streaming everywhere. You can go to I have a Facebook page for Wild, Weird, and Sometimes Normal that has the episodes, but it's like dinosaur stuff for Facebook. I'm on Twitter, Instagram. Everything's Wild, Weird, Sometimes Normal. The only good thing about Facebook is you can put more words going there and makes it better for a post. But IG, everything on there. I'm streaming on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, whatever you want. So if you have an interesting story, hit me up. Wild, Weird, Sometimes Normal at gmail.com. It is not the original email address that I gave you. That was completely misspelled for sometimes. But we got that worked out. You came back like, is sometimes spelled right? Then no, that was wrong. Yeah, but if you have a crazy story, you have seen Bigfoot, you've seen monsters, you want to talk about the afterlife, life after death experience, whatever it is, I have all crazy stuff. You're in a band. I talk to entrepreneurs. I talk to the guy who does this like surfer dudes. You throw them in the ocean, you throw them in the lake, they surf back to you. He has this $1 million company, whatever. Just talk to him. I'm just interested in people, health and wellness, whatever it is. But I'm all over.
Yeah.
Come find it. Hit me up. Let me know. Shawn, I appreciate this, dude. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, you'll have to have me. You have me come on. We can do another episode for yours as well. This was absolutely great. I think that we'll definitely have to have you back on here. We'll talk about more weird and crazy things, and sometimes normal things, I guess too.
Sometimes normal. You never know. You never know.
But I guess I really wouldn't say that on here it's called normal, because I consider this a subnormal podcast.
That's awesome.
All right, everybody. And that's going to end it for tonight. So, as usual, stay weird, y'all.
All right, everyone. That was our show. Don't forget to leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast. Like and follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date in all things wild and weird. Check out the links in the show notes for more information on our guest. The biggest support you can offer is to tell everyone about the podcast. Until next time.